I quit when my fiancé tried to keep two wives. On my wedding day, my fiancé Xavier walked in with his very pregnant widowed sister-in-law on his arm. In front of a ballroom full of guests, he informed me he would only say I do if I agreed to let him maintain two households after the wedding and allow his widowed sister-in-law to live with us. The entire room froze in shock. I answered with a cold laugh. Then, while every eye watched, I ripped off my veil and said calmly, "Then let's not. You seem to forget the Shaws begged me to marry into this family." I turned to my assistant at once. "Terminate every partnership with the Shaw family immediately, and have my dowry moved out of the Shaw mansion." The Shaw family turned the color of ash. Their empire was already on life support. They had been counting on the marriage to prop them up, but Xavier had chosen to humiliate me in public. Before we go on, subscribe to this channel and tell us where you're listening from. 1. Watching me tear the veil away and cancel everything, Xavier's mother's face darkened. She forced a stiff smile. "Aurora, Xavier simply wants to care for his widowed sister-in-law. It won't affect you in the least." "Why the temper?" She shot Xavier a glare. Xavier apologized to Aurora now. Instead of doing damage control, he looked down his nose at me. "Take it or leave it. Phoebe is my sister-in-law. She has no parents. Since my brother died, someone has to look after her. If you can't accept that, let's call off the wedding." His arrogance made me laugh out loud. His parents stared at me in panic, silently pleading with him. Xavier ignored them. He stepped in front of Phoebe like a bodyguard. She smiled at me, small, secret, victorious. I curled my lip in contempt. "Xavier, your family begged for this match. If you want it broken, I'll oblige." Phoebe's eyes lit up. Xavier's brows drew together. My next order wiped the smugness off his face. "Taylor," I said to my assistant in the aisle, "cancel every Shaw contract and have my dowry moved out of their mansion, now." A hush fell over the ballroom, then Taylor answered in a clear voice, "Yes, Quinn." She lifted her phone and strode out, heels clicking. The Shaw faces cracked. Celeste shrieked, "Aurora, have you lost your mind? It's a tiny request and you'd torch us for it? You'll bankrupt the Shaws?" I descended the steps without looking back. "Choose your words carefully, Mrs. Shaw. Your son pushed me, I'm merely pushing back." My gaze flicked to Phoebe's belly. "Xavier, you think I'm an easy mark? Your older brother died a year ago, yet sister-in-law is still pregnant, and you defend her at the altar. Are you afraid people might guess who the real father is?" Phoebe's face drained of color. Guests exchanged whispers, eyes glittering with scandal. Xavier's expression iced over. "Enough, Aurora. Stop slandering us. We're innocent. No man could love a domineering shrew like you. If grandmother hadn't arranged our childhood betrothal, I'd never marry you." I let the insult slide off me and tilted my chin. If my grandfather hadn't made it his dying wish, I'd never waste myself on a useless heir. After my parents died, I was 16, learning the business at grandfather's side, carving a seat at a table full of men. One hint of softness and the board would have devoured me whole. Work is the only priority. Marriage? I hadn't planned on it, but on his deathbed grandfather told me of the betrothal. His last wish was to see me wed. To grant it, I said yes. A merger in wedding white, nothing more. Grandfather passed before he could witness the ceremony, and I never expected Xavier to humiliate me before Riverdale's elite by demanding two wives and a public show of obedience. No pretense, no shame. As for Richard and Celeste, they stood by and watched. They assumed grandfather's death left me powerless, that their son could leash me. They miscalculated. 25 and chairman of a $10 billion group, I didn't get here by being kind. 2. Xavier's arrogance finally cracked. "What's there to gloat about, Aurora? You're only chairwoman because the Sterlings have no other heir. No matter how capable, a woman can't outrank a man. If you weren't the Sterling heiress, I'd never marry a tigress like you." Gasps rippled through the guests. Everyone knew the Shaws had hovered near bankruptcy 2 years earlier. Grandfather's infusion of cash and the engagement announcement had saved them from the gutter. Without us, Xavier would already be sleeping on a park bench. Not only had Xavier humiliated me in front of the entire congregation, he was now openly insulting me. For a second I couldn't help laughing. I actually felt grateful that this idiot had pulled his stunt on our wedding day. Imagine if I'd really married him and had children. What if the kids inherited his defective brain? I swept my gaze over the VIPs, then looked pointedly at Xavier. "As you all witnessed, the Sterlings are not breaking our word today. One man decided a woman's pride was worthless. Since the Shaws find me so distasteful, I assume our joint ventures leave the same bad taste. I've instructed Taylor to terminate every partnership, large or small. If anyone here is interested in those projects, the Sterlings welcome your call. The ballroom glittered with sudden interest. Several investors rose at once. Wonderful. Does Sam have an opening tomorrow? Let's pencil in a thorough discussion. I inclined my head. Richard finally sprang from his seat. The relaxed patriarch vanished. He shoved his rigid-necked son so hard that Xavier stumbled backward, almost toppling Phoebe. In one stride Richard reached me, face frantic, eyes pleading. Aurora, don't do anything rash, he begged. Sweet girl, ignore Xavier's garbage. He's an idiot who let greed rot his brain. The Shaws are at fault, and I apologize on my knees if I must. This engagement was arranged by your grandfather and Xavier's grandmother, we can't dissolve it. He actually started to drop to the marble. Please, young lady, don't hold his lunacy against us. I sidestepped fast, the thought of him kneeling sent ice down my spine. What flawless emotional blackmail. I had never noticed how sly-kindly Richard could be. Had he knelt, my reputation would be ash. My voice went arctic. Rowan, what are you doing, trying to shorten my lifespan? He froze. I don't mean that. I'm begging you to forgive Xavier, to keep the marriage for my sake. No. A forced marriage is bitter wine. Since he thinks so little of me, why should I chase him? I chair Sterling Group, I can certainly find a man worth the name. Richard turned desperate. It isn't forced, you two are fated. Childhood sweethearts written in the stars. When my expression didn't soften, he spun toward his son. Wretch. Kneel and apologize. Grovel until she forgives you or I disown you right here, Dad. Xavier's face flamed with disbelief. Phoebe clutched his sleeve. Father, a man's pride is gold. How can you make him kneel to a woman? Richard's eyes were steel. Get lost. You caused this. Jinx, who buried my eldest son, now set on wiping out the rest of us. Phoebe's face drained of color, she swayed. Dad, you're right, all my fault, then I'll die for it. Xavier caught her arm before she bolted, then snarled at me. Happy now, Aurora? I only want to look after my widowed sister-in-law, and you drive her to her grave? I stared, utterly bewildered. When had I ever threatened Phoebe? Seek therapy. Richard glimpsed my freezing glare and, without warning, kicked the back of Xavier's knee. Down. Beg her, he roared, voice cracking. If Aurora doesn't forgive you and marry you today, you're no son of mine. Celeste finally snapped out of her daze. She hurled herself between Xavier and Phoebe, shoving the younger woman aside, pummeling her son. Xavier, apologize. Do you want our family ruined? Plead with Aurora. The vast ballroom echoed only with her sobs. All eyes, amused, pitying, hungry for scandal, pinned Xavier to the floor. Phoebe cowered behind him, hands protectively over her belly, tears trembling on her lashes. They're right, Xavier. Don't let me destroy you and Sam. Just tell her you're sorry. She lifted a wobbling smile to me. Sam, there's nothing between Xavier and me. He's rash but responsible. If my presence offends you, I'll leave Riverdale, never disturb your life. Please don't break the engagement. He truly loves you. I regarded the tableau with the detachment of a theater-goer watching mediocre drama, then laughed. Love me? I glanced at Xavier, hatred seethed so loudly in his eyes I could almost hear it boil. 3. Meeting my mocking stare, Xavier flung his mother's hands away. A woman so heartless she begrudges a widow, yet you want me to kneel? He spat. He dropped to his knees, finger stabbing at my face. Aurora, I'll remember this humiliation. You think your money makes you a god? Fine. The day will come, 10 years, 20, when I crush you under my heel. Count on it. Looking at the resentment written all over Xavier's face, I let a small smile tug at my lips. Really? Then I'll wait and see, I said, my voice quiet yet carrying to every corner of the ballroom. But before you claw your way back to the top, you'd better figure out how you're going to handle the tsunami of bank debt chasing you. Since the wedding is off, I don't see any reason to keep bailing the Shaw family out. The moment my last word fell, Richard's phone rang like a death knell. He fumbled it to his ear, listened for seconds, and his complexion drained to the color of ash. His knees buckled, he almost hit the marble. It's over. Supplier is calling the loans and killing every contract. I didn't need to guess, Leah had struck with her usual lightning speed, firing notices of capital withdrawal and partnership termination to every department. The Shaw cash flow, already brittle as spun glass, snapped clean in half. Realization hit Richard like a freight train. He turned to me, eyes imploring. Aurora, for the history our families share, could you show mercy and let the Shaws off the hook? As if to prove his sincerity, he spun and smashed Xavier across the face, the blow so vicious it dislodged 2 of his teeth. Seeing that, Phoebe, heavy with child, collapsed to her knees, tears streaming as she cradled Xavier's bloodied jaw. Xavier, does it hurt? I'm sorry, this is my fault. I should never have come to your wedding. Wah. Xavier swallowed a grunt of pain and slurred, Don't cry, Phoebe. None of this is on you. I chose to take care of you. You did nothing wrong. Then he lifted a murderous glare to me. If you want to blame someone, blame that viper Aurora. Hearing him curse me at this hour enraged Richard, he slammed his foot into Xavier's chest. Ungrateful wretch. You want the entire Shaw line to sink with you? Get out. From this day on, I have no son. Xavier staggered upright, lips split, voice ice cold. Fine. I'll go. I told you I never loved Aurora, yet you forced me to marry her. If you'd cancelled the engagement earlier, we'd have avoided this circus. He sliced me a crooked grin. Aurora, just you wait. I refuse to believe I can't rise again without the Sterlings. Clutching Phoebe's hand, he limped out of the ballroom. 4. Once they were gone, Celeste stepped forward, her eyes rimmed in red. Aurora, call off the wedding if you must, but for your own grandfather's sake, spare the Shaw family. I'm begging you, child. She actually started to drop to her knees. I was ready. I swiveled aside, dodging her guilt grenade. Aunt Celeste, let's be accurate. Xavier wanted to dump me. Why are you spinning it as me jilting him? And since it is over, the Shaw's problems aren't my concern. With that, I clicked across the mosaic floor in crystal pumps and left the ruined ceremony. 5. Outside the hotel archway, Leah had a black Kian waiting. I slid into the leather seat, and she held up her iPad. Sam, per your order we're severing every Sterling operation linked to the Shaws. Exposures light, full detachment within 12 hours. Your dowry items will be inventoried and removed from the Shaw compound inside an hour. I gave a faint nod. Well done. A farcical wedding called off in time was, in the end, a lucky escape. As for Xavier's threats, I barely filed them. Business is war, fought with leverage and liquidity, not playground curses. If he had the skill, he could bring it on, but I underestimated how fast, and how shameless, his counterattack would be. Days later, a headline rocketed up the trending hashtag, Aurora humiliated widowed sister-in-law, causing miscarriage and ICU hemorrhage. The piece painted Phoebe as a saintly victim crushed by my cruelty. Xavier stared into the cameras, grief-stricken. Aurora, why couldn't you show a shred of decency? My brother's only child is gone, how will I face him in the afterlife? I'll atone for you, but you owe my sister-in-law a public apology. Netizens exploded. Within hours, Sterling Group's social feeds were drowning in abuse. Our stock price slipped south. Dylan asked, Quinn, we still have the ballroom footage, should we upload it now? I narrowed my eyes, mapping angles, then shook my head. Let the brew ferment. If the market dumps our shares, we buy more. Leah, my high school valedictorian turned data wizard, tapped an OK and got to work. 6. Because I stayed silent, the price sank further. Board members grumbled, faulting my inaction. That night I attended a Riverdale gala, and Xavier swaggered up, smirking. Rough week, Aurora? I told you, no matter how tough a woman talks, a man can smear her into the ground. Spoon-feed me your company and I'll still marry you. Keep resisting and watch Sterling crash. His proposal was laughable. He actually thought I'd hand him the keys. Maybe the world judges women harsher, but that only hardens me. I met his bravado with nothing he wanted, no rage, no fear, only cool contempt. Instead, I swirled my champagne flute and said with cold contempt, you really are ruthless. To frame me, you actually made Phoebe abort the baby in her belly. At my words, Xavier's face twisted. This is all your fault, isn't it? If you'd just agreed to let me keep 2 households, Phoebe's child would still be alive. Aurora, every bit of this sin is on you. Just wait, I'll crush you underfoot one day and avenge that child. I laughed mockingly. Honestly, I often feel like I don't belong with these men because I'm simply not cruel enough. He forced Phoebe to terminate a 6-month pregnancy just to smear me. Now he dumps every ounce of blame on my head. The guy's brain is broken. Still, the more arrogant he is, the better. I lifted my glass toward Xavier and smiled. You're talented at blaming the victim, but it won't work on me. And even if I donated every dollar to the government, I wouldn't give the Shaw family a single cent. Someone like you thinks you can lay a finger on the Sterling Empire? To me, you're nothing but a loser. With that, I walked toward the heart of the gala while Xavier stared as if he wanted to devour me alive. Within 10 seconds I was ringed by a circle of industry titans. As for Xavier, however he'd managed to crash this exclusive event. Everyone here already knew our engagement was history. They also knew that, without the Sterlings propping them up, the Shaws were worthless. So no one bothered greeting Xavier. Jordan, I let myself stand in that spotlight and deliberately shot him a scornful smile. Xavier's fury snapped the stem of his glass. I gave a soft mental snort. If he can't even handle that, how dare he let someone else talk him into scheming against me? If he'd bothered to understand me, he'd know I didn't claim the chairman's seat at 25 through bloodline alone. Without real leverage, I'd have been picked clean down to the bone long ago. 7. Half a month later, egged on by hidden hands, ever uglier smears about me blared across every channel. Our stock price kept sliding, and the board finally panicked. Led by my uncle, several directors called an emergency meeting to force me out of day-to-day control. Aurora, the scandal's blown up too big, my uncle said. We all agree you're no longer fit to serve as chairwoman. A young woman ought to stay home, marry, raise kids. Don't worry, stepping down won't affect your dividends. With me here, nobody can touch a penny of your share. I couldn't help laughing. I'd let that idiot Xavier spread rumors precisely to hook the big fish. At last the snakes had slithered into the open. I stayed lounged in my chair and swept my gaze across the table. Anyone else think I'm unfit? My faction answered at once, we believe he is perfect for the job. Exactly, his record since taking over speaks for itself. We trust you. I curved my lips slightly, then looked at Leah. Taylor, hand out the file you're holding. Leah nodded and passed the slim folder down the table. The directors' faces shifted the moment they saw what lay inside. An equity holding agreement. Holder, Aurora. Before Grandpa died, afraid I was too young and headstrong, he'd given Aunt a sliver of stock to keep an eye on me, leaving me with only 49%. But through steady takeovers these past weeks I'd picked up another 2%, which meant I now held 51% outright. Whatever I said, the rest had to swallow. The room fell dead silent. Uncle stared at the pages in disbelief, then snapped his eyes to me. You've been snapping up shares behind our backs? Normally no director would part with that much equity, but with my reputation under fire and the price plummeting, some had lost their nerve. That gave me the opening to buy big. I didn't bother answering him. I simply asked the room, now, does anyone still think I'm unsuited to be chairwoman? My supporters grinned. Quinn, you own 51%, nobody's more qualified. Uncle forced a smile. Well, seeing you grow this capable puts your aunt and me at ease. Then his tone sharpened. But the online rumors are hurting the company. If this isn't fixed, we all lose money. I gave a cool nod. Understood. Rest assured, the problem ends today. Several of you attended my wedding. You saw exactly what happened, so ignore the garbage circulating online. At that, everyone finally exhaled in relief. 8. That same day I posted 2 videos online, footage from the wedding, and the clip of Xavier demanding Phoebe end the pregnancy to frame me. Seeing Xavier insist I accept a second wife under one roof, netizens exploded. OMG, what century is this? She's your brother's widow. If anyone shelters her it should be the Shaws, not the bride. Phoebe's husband died a year ago, pregnancy lasts 10 months. Do the math, who's the daddy? Disgusting. Sleeps with his widowed sister-in-law, tries to make his fiancé accept a sister wife, then trashes her online when she refuses. The tide turned overnight. Scumbags and homewreckers deserve to be locked up together. Thank God Aurora saw their true colors before the wedding. Imagine the hell she'd have endured if she'd actually married that jerk. In no time, the backlash swallowed Xavier and Phoebe whole. Netizens didn't just curse them to the gutter. Even on the street, people pointed and whispered the moment they were recognized. Meanwhile, the stock price clawed back every inch it had lost, and then surged even higher. Board members who'd secretly unloaded their equity were now kicking themselves sick. 9. Seeing my position inside the company set in stone, Uncle Morris dialed Xavier and screamed that he was trash. Idiot, if you'd just married her on schedule, none of this would have happened. You can't even keep your affairs under wraps, you had to parade them in front of Aurora. Couldn't you have played the devoted groom, then disposed of her after the wedding? The company would have dropped into our laps. Now you've blown my entire plan to hell. He slammed the phone down in a rage. I listened to every syllable through the wire, expression blank, then turned to Leah. Africa just opened a new coal site, didn't it? Send Uncle Morris to run it. Leah's lips curled in delight. Right away, Quinn. 10. 2 days later Aunt Evelyn's call came through. She opened with an icy demand. Aurora, what's the meaning of this? Your uncle is old, how could you ship him off to Africa to open some mine? I didn't spare her an inch. Aunt Evelyn, you honestly don't know why? You've watched me grow up. You know my temper. If anyone else tried to take my life, do you think I'd let him keep breathing? If I weren't doing you a favor, Africa would be the least of his worries. Her fire died in an instant. He only acted on impulse. And really, why does a girl need to be so hard? He just wanted to help run things. I gave a cold laugh. So she'd been in on it too. I tightened my grip on the phone. The Sterling Group doesn't need an outsider with a different last name holding the reins. I hung up without another word. 11. 1 month later, I was leaving the office when a black sedan screamed toward me. Good thing I value my neck, I pay top dollar for 2 bodyguards. The instant the car lunged, my female bodyguard yanked me behind her, clear of the impact. The black sedan smashed head-on into the flower bed in front of headquarters. Behind the wheel, Xavier's face was twisted with hate. Aurora, go to hell. My eyes went arctic. He really has a death wish. When he realized he'd missed, Xavier snarled and wrenched the wheel for a second charge. One bodyguard shielded me, the other vaulted into my Kian and rammed him head-on. The crunch of metal was deafening. Xavier's body snapped, his skull cracked against the window, blood streaming as he was pinned in the driver's seat. I let out a slow breath and immediately called the police. 12. Officers arrived minutes later and dragged Xavier away. I ordered my people to pull every frame of surveillance footage. This time, I'll make sure he rots inside prison walls. 13. With evidence this ironclad, a guilty verdict was inevitable. The moment the Shaw family learned Xavier had tried to kill me, they disowned him faster than a stock in free fall. Aurora, Xavier's actions have nothing to do with us. You saw it yourself, I expelled him from the family that very day. Please don't punish the whole Shaw clan for that animal's crime, I answered coolly. Every man pays for his own sins. Rest easy, Uncle Rowan, I won't take it out on the family. Not that the Shaws could rise again even if I did nothing, the vultures were already circling, but a mere prison sentence? Far from enough. Taylor, grease the right palms. I never want to see Xavier breathe free again. Leah caught my drift at once. She inclined her head. Understood, Quinn. 14. On the day Xavier was sentenced, I stepped out of the courthouse and Phoebe flung herself at my feet, tears streaking her face. Aurora, please, spare Xavier. I'll be your slave, your servant, just give him one more chance. He broke the engagement for my sake. Let me trade my life for his, please let him go. Thanks to my legal team, Xavier received 20 years for attempted murder. Anyone who tries to kill me doesn't walk out of prison alive. I looked down at her groveling form. When Xavier dumped me for you, weren't you gloating in my face? And what good are your begging now? The fact I didn't have him killed on the spot was already an act of mercy. Shielded by my bodyguards, I walked away. Phoebe collapsed on the pavement, sobbing into her hands. But I know her tears aren't for teaming up with Xavier. She's crying because she let him demand a 2-wife marriage at the altar, right in front of me. 15. Back inside the car, I listened to Leah's briefing while my fingers flew over my laptop. Marriage? I stopped caring long ago, but power and money, I will hold them in a death grip of my own. The end. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, hit like and share it with friends. We'd love to hear your take in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales. See you next time.